Well, Israel has been preparing for this kind of scenario, that is a comprehensive aerial attack from Iranian missiles, UAVs, and so on, for a very long time. As you may or may not know, Israel has the most advanced defense missile systems, which it has been developing for many, many years, for 2 decades. So over 2 decades, and much of it with US support and cooperation. So to begin with, in the infrastructure, Israel has very, very good capabilities of defending against missile and UAV attacks. But in addition to this, as you may know, there was very clear intelligence as to what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, the period of time that it takes for UAVs particularly, but then also cruise missiles, and to a lesser extent ballistic missiles, to reach from Iran to Israel also gave time to prepare. And finally, the fact that Israel was part of a coalition of defense, including even Jordan, but the United States, Britain, France, and other countries in the region that were also willing and able to help in the interception. Well, Israel has, first of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that being attacked in this way as a sovereign state allows you to respond. And I don't think anybody is contesting that Israel has this right after such a comprehensive attempt at an attack on its territory, on its sovereignty. Having said that, Israel does not, I don't think Israel feels compelled to respond. So we have the right to respond. There's a very, very wide range of ways that we could respond. They range from the kinetic, through cyber, through many other options. As you know, there's a lot of advanced capacity here in Israel. And the question is, and by the way, it's not just a question of means, but also targets. Israel could respond on Iranian territory. Israel could respond against assets that Iran holds throughout the Middle East. Unlike Israel, that is has its assets located within the states, Iran has assets in Lebanon, in Damascus, in Yemen, all over the Middle East. So there really is a plethora of options and a wide range of degrees in which Israel could respond. Having said that, Israel could also decide to respond in the diplomatic arena and basically solidify and push forward in a very energized way the coalition that already de facto exists, as we all saw during the attack. There's already a coalition against Iran, an axis that works against it. Move it along diplomatically and formally, move to normalization with Saudi Arabia, which will change the whole dynamic of the region. And that, I think, would be a very painful response for Iran, because I think, in a way, that's what Iran fears most. Well, we are always prepared for these attacks, certainly since October 7th, where we saw how just reckless and limitless and inhumane our enemies can be. So there's no option in which Israel is not prepared. We are aware of Hezbollah's capacities, because Hezbollah is also aware of Israel's capacities. And if it wasn't, then it got a lesson a couple of days ago on April 14th. But Hezbollah is also a Lebanese organization. It's obviously fueled and motivated by Iran and Iranian ideology, but it also is based in Lebanon. And it has a lot of other interests in Lebanon that have, I think so far, kept Nasrallah from really making an extreme move and an attack that would, as he likes to threaten, would entail, hundreds of thousands of missiles and rockets and whatnot. I don't think that has changed. If anything, after the Iranian attack and the resounding failure of that attack, I think the benefit cost calculation should be reevaluated. So if I'm looking pragmatically, I don't see the interest in doing that. Having said that, we are at war. War brings a lot of miscalculation, surprise, things that weren't intended, escalations in places that weren't expected. So we are prepared for anything. And I'd remind you, we have tens of thousands of people displaced in our own country. The north of Israel currently is empty. So civilian targets don't exist there. So clearly we are prepared. and hopefully the message is clear. It won't work. Look, we have been, in fact, in a multi-arena conflict with Iran since before October 7th, but certainly since October 7th started. We're facing the Northern Front. It's not like it's quiet there. There's war going on there every day. We're facing a front with Gaza, of course. We had the Houthis of Yemen attack us many times, even militias from Iraq who try to conduct attacks. So in a sense, we're already within that scenario. It is, of course, a question of magnitude. We are absolutely prepared for this magnitude to go up. I think that if Israel finds that there is a military response that is required for its defense, or boosting significantly its deterrence, or moving ahead something in this war towards the goals that I have to remind you are first and foremost the return of our hostages, then it will take that action. Having said that, that's not clear that that is what's going on. So really, I can't give you a direct response because truly everything is on the table. Well, again, these things are a strain, but I want to remind you, we've been in this war for 6 months, and I think one of the major miscalculations of all of our enemies, particularly Hamas, and to an extent Hezbollah, was this notion that they have that Israel cannot withstand a long war. Well, Israel is a very strong state, a very strong population, and we've been in it for 6 months. And if you would come to Tel Aviv, you would see the coffee shops and the restaurants full. So I'm thinking that's one more miscalculation. Iran, on the other hand, has a very weak economy, has been facing demonstrations and problems nonstop. And the attacks certainly did not help the Real. And we see the consequences of that. So it would be a strain for sure. It would be something that would prohibit how we live and how we act. But I would remind you that we have withstood these challenges before here in Israel. Never look forward to it. But when it comes, the Israeli population knows how to stop everything and fight back. And I think we've demonstrated that. Having said that, I hope that's not where things are headed, first and foremost, because what's required for this war to just come to a stop is for the maniacal leader of Hamas to release the hostages and bring an end to the war. That is what it's about at this point. So, of course, we're hinging on the persona that we would least like to be, conditioned on. But we will endure until we bring every one of them home. He is our prime minister at the moment. He is facing an impossible political situation where his very fragile government hinges on some very right-wing voices who do not seem to want an end to this war. And so for as long as he caters towards them, he has a huge problem with the population and the popular vote. It's seen in every poll. It's seen everywhere. The main goal that the public is supporting is the return of the hostages. And so we are seeing a very fragile political situation. But again, I think it's a miscalculation of people looking from the outside, in the sense that they thought this before October 7th because of the huge demonstrations that we had in Tel Aviv against the government. And when time came to get together and fight back, that's exactly what happened, because survival really trumps anything else. So his relationship with Biden, I don't think we can describe as particularly positive. However, the president of the United States, thankfully, seems to have a very developed view of foreign and defense policy in the Middle East and where things should be going. He seems to have his own understanding of Israeli interests, and he acts according to that, and puts aside all the personal drama. I think that's something to respect and appreciate. And lastly, let's not forget that the war cabinet is really run not just by Netanyahu, but three very strong personas. His Minister of Defense, Gallant, who is not in agreement with him about a lot of things, and then Eisenkot and Gantz, who are also political opposition. And so what we're seeing here for him politically is very difficult, but it does seem so far to lead to measured decision-making on the warfighting level.